Hello, and welcome to Blockchain Solidarity, the podcast where we ask what blockchain can do for us. What is blockchain? What is crypto? Could it rescue us from our current dystopia? Come with us as we explore the very real potential to enhance human freedom and as we delve into the darker side, predicting the Bond-villain potential of this current bleeding edge. Join us, a group of friends, in a pub style as we discuss the overlaps between this technology and politics, economics, the environment, culture, and sci-fi to understand for ourselves the seemingly mysterious futuristic world on our horizon. Welcome back, everyone, to Blockchain Solidarity Pod. We're back again for another episode. We have our friend of the pod, and regular occurrence on the pod, Eves Edwards. Eves, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for asking. Some exciting news. Excited to talk about it.
Yeah, we've got some interesting topics to discuss on the pod this week. We're both involved in a new project called PodsDAO, so we're going to tell you a little bit about that and what we're thinking about that, and then we're also going to talk about this new craze that's taken over crypto Twitter this weekend. I'm sure you've heard about it. Friend.tech, Friend.tech or something, whatever. Everyone's gone nuts over it, so we're going to give our thoughts on that, and then we're going to talk about a recent episode that Eves did on his podcast, which sort of one of the main things, or one of the key things that I thought came out of it that I was interested in, I guess, was this idea of local versus global organizing, and the guest that he had on and her views around that, which certainly was interesting, especially for people in the crypto world, I guess, but we'll get into that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about Gitcoin and its potential interaction and engagement with Shell, no less, the big baddie in the oil world, and some interesting ethical questions around that. So stick with us. Going to be an interesting show. Always a good chat, conversation with Eves when he's on. So yeah, I can't wait to get started. So let's start with PodsDAO. What is this? And what are we shooting for? Eves and I have been sort of leading the way behind the scenes on this, as well as a few people who've been in and around blockchain. And the idea really was to create something where podcasts, as sort of one of the main forms of content creation, audio and video these days, like, we just believe in pods so much. It's quite clearly the future. And we thought, like, small creators out there, it's really hard for them to get a leg up. Some people have made it, but there's so many just small people out there, not small people, but smaller creators who, are just putting in so much time and resources, and it's really difficult to just get some traction. So we thought, like, there's a DAO for everything. Why not? We just bring our efforts together and collaborate and see where we can go with this thing. And Eve's really, there's two tracks to this, isn't there? Sort of short term. We kind of thought, like, well, let's just focus our efforts on people, pod hosts helping each other share skills, share resources, share ideas, share guests, sort of contacts and all the rest of it. But also adjacent to that, like, let's build some culture around this. Let's build an identity around this, and let's, sort of long term think about how this DAO could fulfill this sort of dream of Web3, where creators sort of own their own work and govern themselves. So that's the long term vision, isn't it? And I'm really excited about it. How do you feel about it? Where do you see it going?
I'm excited too. We started, and I guess still are, just a humble Telegram group right now. Floated some ideas about already for the progression, where it's going to go. Like you said, it's a kind of form a culture and an identity. We still have some brand building to do. Possibly, a website. I mean, definitely once we have kind of the DAO structure down, we'll have a website. And yeah, I mean, I liked we floated some ideas of the kind of the vibe of the thing around. I like the idea of somewhat a little mysterious. Seems kind of interesting. Um, but yeah, I think we're off to a great start. As you said, we're gonna, like it's to help each other, share resources and network, and we're gonna have some community calls as well. So there's gonna be like some brainstorming sessions. Hopefully, I feel like that'll be quite helpful to especially a lot of the people just starting out. And yeah, just helpful in general for people
Yeah,
networking and
yeah,
sharing
yeah. I think
guests. And
it's for the last sort of few days that we've started it. People are coming in with recommendations for grants, and people are saying that they want to be involved in building this out. So it's really exciting. These things are always a little jump start at the beginning, but then things kind of trying to kind of take on a life of their own. So it's interesting. And for folks listening, asking sort of, okay, what does this mean for blockchain? Well, we are encouraging the pod hosts on the other pods to obviously be involved in this. Everyone is really enthusiastic about it, so that's good. And they'll be taking on, all being well, more responsibility for that themselves, and growing out those pods, with the help of the community. So that this is a wider sort of vision for helping podcasters, and I think it could be really interesting. So stay tuned for more details, and get in contact with us, if you're a small podcaster out there in the crypto space, and want to get a leg up with everyone else, and build something together. So yeah, that's PodsDAO. So yeah, anyway, let's jump into our first content topic, I guess, of this week, and let's dive into one of your episodes, Eves. Tell us a little bit what led to this discussion of global versus local organizing, and perhaps set out for folks listening the main crux of your guest's rather point, and where you disagreed with her, or where you agreed with her, and then we can go from there.
I mean, so essentially, my guest came on the show to talk about Lightning, the Lightning Network, which is obviously related to Bitcoin, which means there's some like an influence of Bitcoin culture, um, and uh, basically she was saying that I'm sort of paraphrasing here, but she doesn't think that DAOs and this kind of Web3 thing that's going on, the tech and Web3 and the ways that we collaborate and coordinate. She doesn't think those DAOs and those kind of structures are the best way to go about social and political change, and sort of like boots on the ground change. Um, and so, yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. I think there's kind of many layers to solving these problems. I think where there's probably some truth in it is, there's a difference in bonds that you form in groups that are, digital or global, where you're not face to face with the person. It's not a local community. It's not connected to, you know, reality, so to speak, in a more tangible way. Um, it's almost like a biological component to it, that you can't escape, right? The bonds that we form in groups when we work together. There's a very different bond to the bonds that we form on the online world in Web3. Um, and so I think that was like kind of the main critique there. I think it was just that local organizing, local decentralized organizing works better. That's what she believes. And my take is, while I might agree because of some of the things I just mentioned, uh, that's no reason to not also have the global layer as well. Like, why not push for both? I think, and then that's the strongest position we can be at. Like, we absolutely need to localize and decentralize in our day to day lives, of course, and on the tech global Web3 layer as well.
And what did she say anything back to that? Did she, when you said we need both, and let's find some way to have both? Did she just like completely rule that out? Like, no, we don't need both. We just need local. Skip the both. We don't need the global. Or was she open to like discussing what that global should look like, even though local should get priority?
I think she was open to it. I think I don't remember exactly what her response was, but I believe that the reason we were kind of talking about it in the first place was in response to her experience that she was talking about, that she has, she's she said something along the lines of she hadn't seen the success of these DAOs and these theories, these concepts. Um, she she just said, yeah, in her experience, the local thing works better. But in some ways, I do think, because I mentioned right at the start that Lightning. She's a Lightning dev, and Lightning is connected to Bitcoin culture. And I think, in some sense, this is also an influence from Bitcoin culture. This kind of idea, because there are projects in Bitcoin that seem to be more like their community seems to be more focused on this kind of local idea that she was talking about, not these kind of DAO mega structures or meta structures or whatever you want to call them. Um, yeah, it just seems like the bit.
That is
Oh,
that
go ahead.
that is true. Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, where do you see her views leading, like aligning with the idea of Bitcoin and is there alignment there? And that's you're right, isn't it? Like the Bitcoin world, sort of, if you even sort of if I'm speaking through my own sort of in real life local experience of Bitcoin, is you often see it in Latin America with Bitcoin town this, Bitcoin lake that. It is very sort of focused,
Exactly.
hyper
Bitcoin
focused, maybe.
Cafe. It's all about the little coffee from the mum and pop's coffee shop.
Right. Right, and they're not trying to create. I guess the DAO version of that would be okay. So we've sorted out one little beach town or one cafe. Why don't we all have 1,000 cafes around the world join in a DAO, and we'll have like I create a cafe DAO or something that drinks the big Bitcoin are more sort of like no. Let's just help this cafe here right now, which we can do well, and forget about these. Why would you DAO that? Just it's an interesting point. What do you think?
No, I agree. Yeah, and those are the
Yeah.
examples. Yeah, that I would have also pointed to these little Bitcoin towns, Bitcoin Cafe, Bitcoin Beach. Um, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm personally open to these ideas. I don't think we've got it all figured out. I think there's truth to both sides. I think I think it's in some ways inescapable that uh, until until we're transhuman, until we like excuse me, until we transcend our biology, right? I don't think you can kind of get around the fact, unless you were to be able to simulate some hyper real virtual reality kind of situation that give you all the same stimulus and tricks your body into like feeling like you're actually like in a town with people somehow. And that seems like a really complex thing to do, but yeah, so I think it's inescapable. I think that
Mm,
the truth of what she's saying, but I don't think it means that you should. I don't think it means that the other thing is like has no value. I don't think it means like you should not also have this DAO layer just because local communities might be the best way to do certain things. Well, yeah, of course, but as you said, why not have like an emphasis on the local,
mm.
and then when we need the organization at the meta level, we can have the DAO structure on top, or maybe the DAO structure isn't
Right.
isn't the
Yeah.
the number one
Yeah.
thing we're all focused on. Maybe it's just a kind of flipping of perspective or reframing.
The nail on the head, and this is a big debate, in just real world organizing and in the crypto space, for any kind of a thing, activism or organizing a business or a collective effort in any way, real world or crypto, digital world or whatever. Everyone has these kind of questions of what works best. And I suppose my thing that nobody's got it worked out, but I would just say, like, take the cafe example. You know, what if okay, certain things just work at the local level. You don't need a global or whatever effort DAO, and that DAO, how a DAO would bring that sort of help facilitate a global effort or in some way, or an international effort. But what if the little cafe owners or the local people who own the cafe were like, you know what, okay, we've sorted this locally, but why don't we spin up a DAO, because we've got some partners over there, or we've got some folks who across the world who are creating a coffee shop as well, or whatever. And maybe there's some sort of communication things, learning things that we can share, or supply chain stuff that we can liaison. Maybe we want to, sort of join up with them and create a joint sort of business effort. So 100 local people over here that own this cafe, and 100 local people in Chile over there who own their cafe. Why don't we just make it 200 people own the one cafe, and so it's up to the people that sort of, if the cafe owners, the local cafe owners go, yeah, yeah, well, I mean, let's take this to the next level, and this is how we do it, then why would anyone go, no, you can't do that? And it seems to be that the DAO would sort of facilitate that kind of effort. So yeah, but these are difficult questions, isn't
Well,
it? I definitely agree with you. I see it from both ends. Yeah.
I mean, could you even? I just thought of this now. You could even argue that, for example, something like PodsDAO couldn't be done any other way, right? There's certain things that
Right.
how would you do
Yeah.
that? Like
Yeah.
podcasting by its nature is kind of like remote or mobile. Obviously, there's in-person interviews and things like that, but it's for the large part like an independent thing. You're by yourself, got your own gear.
Mm, mm,
So yeah,
mm-hmm.
that would probably be the main critique or the pushback, at least, that um, you just have to, just like you have to deal with the reality that humans maybe form closer bonds and work better together, and there's certain dynamics that are at play just on at play online. You could also make the argument that the same is true for a lot of things that you might want to do. Like you just have to accept the reality that certain things actually need DAOs if we want to accelerate or grow them. Certain ideas.
Exactly. And any sort of, at what stage does any sort of human effort, sort of, if you want to scale or grow, become something that is just out of it becomes more than just you and your individual efforts. It could be then your family, then your community, then your town, then global. Everything seems that we need humans and collective and collaborative effort to sort of reach new ways of evolution or transformation or something like. So this is a good point. We kind of need each other in some way, but um, I feel like these are ongoing discussions, and everyone's trying to work them out. So check out Eve's episode with that guest. You'll find his pod Fiat Lux on all platforms. Check out this, and go and listen to it, and go and see what you think, and then come back and sort of interact with Eves on his pod and comment section or whatever, and then here as well, and then tell us what you think, because this is fascinating sort of stuff to think about. I mean, everyone's thinking of it, right? Global versus local effort. These are the big discussions of our day, right? So, but yeah, let's bounce on to the next topic then. And we'll talk about this friend. What is it? Friend.tech, Friend.tech, something. I've only seen it in the last day or so. Eves, I don't know how long you've been saying this. Maybe I've been traveling the Lao this weekend, so I've been a little bit out of the loop. But I saw it when I landed, and I was like, "Whoa!" The crypto world is going nuts again over some new. And my co-host on Crypto Dark Pod would say it's another fad. What is this? We move through these fads in crypto, but Yves, lay out what you think this Friends.tech is for everyone listening who might not have heard about it yet, and then we can get into some of the questions around the ethics, morals, and what it is basically, and what's trying to achieve.
Okay, so I've got some notes on this. So it's kind of a quick breakdown, I guess, for everyone that's not aware of it
Yeah,
or that's new to it. I'm also new, um,
mm,
just like yourself. Been um, only been a day or two since seen the news. But it's an app on
sure.
Coinbase's base chain. This is the new layer 2 that they've introduced. Um, it's made specifically as a web app for iOS to avoid App Store fees. It gives you a wallet where your profile lives. It links to your Twitter profile, and people can buy shares of your profile. So people buy shares, and the benefit to you is that you get 5% of all the share trading fees. And the app creators, the Friend.tech guys, they get 5% too. So yeah, and the final thing is when you buy a share of the influencer or the person, you unlock access to the chat room that obviously all the other people that have bought shares have access to, and so you can kind of speak to this person directly. Whoever's profile it is that you've bought into. So yeah, that's really the breakdown. It's kind of yeah, I don't know. It's some kind of like influencer, Ponzi scheme kind of deal. Um, there's a lot there's a lot to be said about it. My first thought that it was maybe quite creepy because of the social dynamics between the influencer and the people in the chat. So
Right.
people are how does that change how people or at least the influencer interacts with the people in the chat? Because essentially they're propping up the price, and the more trading and activity that's done, the more they get in trading fees. So they have to keep everyone happy. They have to kind of like placate the
Right.
market.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that was my first thought. I don't know,
But yeah, that was
Oh, go ahead.
kind of my first thought as well. I mean, that is, I was going to ask, have you seen anything like this before? I've read somewhere that it's kind of new, and some other people say like, it's sort of just, sort of going off some other things that have been built already. But I haven't certainly seen anything like this before. And the main offering seems to be this chat thing, right? Because other than that, it really just is just trading shares in something. Do you know what I mean? Like what makes it more than just trades in something? If it's not a coin, okay, it's just this influencer, right? It's just another asset that you're trading, but it's this access to the chat that just seems to be the gateway. It's the value offering, if anything. And is it a value offering? Would you say, like, you've said there, it sets up some creepy dynamics. I mean, what really do people want to talk to an influencer about? Like endlessly talking to a crypto influencer and paying for the privilege. I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe there are folks out there who just constantly want to pay to talk to someone and have a chat, find out what they're thinking. But it just sets up some really dodgy dynamics. As you say, the influencer could be like, does he charge more to get access? Does he pump up, you know, his whole thing is, or his or her whole thing is to get people to stay in and chat, to drive up the share price. So just audience capture. You do what the audience wants, or you set the agenda for the audience. Anyone who's not sort of positive or something gets kicked out. Do you know what I mean? The whole, it's building like what this whole dynamic just to get the share price up, because that's all the influencer cares about, really, right?
Well, I mean, it's also taking away in some sense, or separating uh, the kind of open nature, or like because the sort of core of something,
Mm.
like Twitter or Facebook, or whatever it might be, um, is the fact that the interactions are basically open. Like, you follow someone, they accept your request, you can see it. Then you have like a timeline of like all the people on it, and I imagine the Friends.tech has a similar thing. You have a timeline, you can follow people, um, but this creates like a kind of thing where it's kind of like pay to be in the conversation kind of vibe. Whereas like other platforms, you can argue, yes, we've seen with Twitter or X that now it is becoming a pay to contribute kind of thing. Like, for example, they can do that. It's sort of like a shadow way of doing it, because I've heard, just as a side note, that this concept of like the blue check marks, blue ticks, um
Mm.
well, anyone can sort of buy or subscribe to the blue tick. There may be millions of people, or however many, that maybe couldn't afford it, and because of the way that the algorithm puts people's responses that are blue ticked right to the top, it prioritizes blue ticks. Essentially, all the other people are getting like silence, right? It's like some like indirect censorship in a way. Um, so yeah, in the same right, you could look at that, this new platform as a similar kind of thing, I suppose. It's like people who don't have the money to get involved aren't part of the secret club. Um, but again, then it's also the free market, right? No one has to buy them, and I guess the just the silver lining, I suppose, is that you can dump your shares. I mean, yeah, there might be, if it's a Ponzi thing, you might lose all your money. So great, you might have the freedom to dump your shares, but if the whole thing's a scam, then I mean, I guess it still matters that you have the ability to do that. Um, but I think you would prefer for the value to hold, and also be able to kind of exit. But yeah, the argument against it, or the silver lining, would be, while it's seems scammy and just like socially degenerate, like um
Yeah, it seems degenerate. That's the word I was looking for. It's not. It doesn't seem regenerative. It just seems like another degen thing. Financializing interactions to get that bag. And I don't know. maybe the core concept of this, sort of where the community and sort of can engage with the influencer who the community helped to make influential at the end of the day. Without the community they're following, influencer doesn't get to be influential in the first place. So, there's that whole dynamic, and if there may be a model in the future that seems where the community can benefit from that value that they create, that the influencer right now benefits from primarily, but this doesn't seem to be it. And I was watching that Bankless DAO did a video on it, or did an episode where they covered this, and I don't know if they were being slightly sort of facetious, or sort of it was part of the play that they were doing, but like one of them is on the it did this right, and sort of monetized himself on this tech, this platform, I guess, over the weekend or whatever. And I'd never listened to Bankless DAO, so I have no idea how these guys get along and how they act in front of the camera. I don't know, but I just, the way this guy was talking about himself, I was like, that is ego mania. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, you know, is this what it would do to you as an influencer when you finally make yourself something like a public company? Do you know what I mean, where everyone buys shares in you? Is this what it does to your ego? Because he was getting on like the others, his co-host was like trying to get to some like core deeper thoughts on it, and he was like at one point he interrupted her and he was like, no, go to the graph. Okay, graph, yeah. Co-host brought up the graph and he was like, look at that graph, how bullish am I, look at that bullish trend. And I was like, listen, I was like, I was like, oh my God, this is crypto defined right now. But I was just on a sort of, as someone who's trying to create content themselves and trying to create this PodsDAO where we bring in people to create content, good, but real good content, and not build it around the ego of the podcaster. And I was like, holy shit! I mean, this is worrying if this is what it's going to create in people. This kind of, haha, look at me. And he was like, oh, I'm top three, and oh yeah, so good for me. Oh my God. But anyway, I suppose the deeper point here is like, sort of, it's the financialization of interactions. It's the financialization of using your community to get bag. What is the what does what, if anything else other than making money, does the influencer get here? He doesn't care about having key conversations with his audience. Like, what, he's in the chat to talk to his community endlessly, and be altruistic, and darn it, he's there to make, he or she's there to make bag at the end of the day and drive up the share price. This is the incentives that I see. What do you see? Like, what else does the influencer gain here? Their core incentive seems to be just getting that bag, you know?
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe in some sense it's not even something we have to worry about because it's just going to become like, okay, so right now it's early. People are still going to get established. Before long, it's going to be $1 million to get in the chat to speak to, person
Right.
XYZ.
Mm.
And it's like, whatever. It's just a thing that the rich people do now. And it's not, it's escaped the common man.
Mm.
Because, yeah, all of the, influences that are, all the biggest influence, even that their ticket price is so high that it just, it pushes everyone else out. And so, yeah, maybe it just like sort of collapses under its own weight, kind of thing. Or not collapses. It just becomes its own little animal, off in the corner, just only for the elites, basically, people who can afford
Only
it.
for the well, like so much of the NFT world, isn't it? Just like it becomes just a
That's
small
yeah.
clique of elites that own crypto kitties, or this, that, or the other. It may just be that entry and the ability to be able to chat to the influencer. You have to just, yeah, you have to own like 100,000 shares or something. I mean, this is not revolutionary. I mean, at least this how it's constructed now just doesn't seem interesting at all. But nobody has to work out something perfectly the first time. It's the first, I guess, attempt at this kind of thing, and I suppose there'll be new models and new ways of doing it. Let's get on to the final topic that we want. It's a short episode this week, folks, but really sort of interesting ones. Let's get on to the next one. which Eves just told me about before we bounced on this episode, and it blew me away. So I was like, "We're talking about that," and it's this. Eves, you can set it out here because you know more about it than I do. Like, but our beloved Gitcoin grants, which everyone will know who's in the crypto world. But if you're not, and you're listening to this, and you're intrigued by crypto, and what's Gitcoin? Gitcoin essentially is the sort of key, or the one of the main sort of grant platforms for new and sort of interesting projects, protocols in the crypto space. And it's, you know, its main thing is that it's sort of funding public goods, right? And it's kind of more ethical in that sense. You know, you don't get a lot of the sort of, you know, sort of dodgy people coming in with a whole pile of money and sort of profiteering and giving it to this project because it'll be the most money and stuff. You have a lot of small projects who go through Gitcoin grant rounds, and essentially it's the community that sort of decides how much money should go to these projects. So it's really the gold standard. Everyone kind of loves it in the crypto space. You know, very few people have anything against it, and it's really sort of pride and joy of a lot of people in the crypto space who want a new way of doing things. But so in this sense, the story that Eves is about to break here is going to break everyone's heart who's listening to this. So Eves, why don't you go ahead and set it out? And you know, nothing's confirmed, I guess, yet from what I know, but go ahead and lay it out and break all of our hearts.
Yeah, okay. Well, what I will do is I'll start by reading the tweet announcement.
Yeah,
And yeah, I'm still waiting for the day that Elon, figures out what he's going to call tweets, because it's X now, isn't it? So, who
that's
knows what we're going to be
true. That's
saying.
true.
I, I
What do you think he will call it?
I'm not sure. X post maybe. Who knows?
X post.
Um,
X, yeah,
so
X's. Yeah.
basically, Gitcoin says in this announcement tweet here, we're happy to share that we've entered a collaboration with Shell to accelerate open source innovation in the energy sector. Together, we're driving sustainable solutions and making a positive impact on the world. Let's dive in. And then there's a sort of a big thread about what's going on and why they've done it. So it says, I'll kind of skim through this. At Gitcoin, we believe in the power of collaboration and open source development. Teaming up with Shell allows us to leverage their industry expertise and funding to support innovative emerging climate solution projects. Um, as part of the collaboration, Shell will also donate to our matching fund in the Gitcoin grants program. Climate grantees will have the ability to apply directly to be part of this matching pool. This means increased support for climate solutions and open source projects that aim to create a sustainable future. And the funding in this round is optional. Grantees have the ability to opt into the round or not when applying. It's up to you if you want to apply for these funds. There's 100k in funds this round that are additional to the 250k available to the climate round grantees. Essentially, you don't, as far as I understand it, you don't necessarily have to interact with the kind of Shell influence in the ecosystem. Obviously, there will be some influence from Shell, but you don't have to, I guess, take their money. And yeah, it doesn't seem like the reaction's been great. I want to read just quickly
Hmm.
one of the replies from at Luna_mining, which is Rachel Rose O'Leary. She put, can hardly be more out of sync with the values of this industry, to be honest. And that was it, like short and straight to the point. Um, so yeah, it doesn't look like it looks like they're taking some heat as you would expect. I kind of have the feeling like you were saying, Britt, about breaking people's hearts. It's almost like the move is kind of renouncing their like purity. That like you said, there's kind of they're like the what is it like the I'm not angel child. I forget the term, but it's they're kind of like it's like wow, it's so super positive kind of culture and energy and public perception or at least the crypto public, our perception of Gitcoin is like this high and mighty, this pure kind of entity, right? And it's kind of like they've renounced their purity by doing that. It's not a great look.
Strikes me that they've been captured behind the scenes, but let me put a more difficult question to you. Actually, I'd love to hear what you think about this. and it's this: crypto and, let's say, Gitcoin grants, perhaps. There's two competing sort of values here, right? Isn't it? It's the sort of, you know, sort of ethical purity, sort of why would you want Shell? Oh my God, like this doesn't strike me as an organization that there should be any question over. I mean, pick some of the companies in the world that are just the most destructive in on the planet, to people. Shell will be right up there with them. So it's not even, there doesn't seem to be any ambiguity around that. It's just fucking evil, right? So that makes it a really interesting sort of point here I think I'm going to make is like, you know, that seems to be so clear cut on that side. But then the whole decentralization debate is, look, you can't have it both ways. You either decentralize markets, you have to let players in, and if you don't want to take their money, don't take their money. And if you don't want to fund them, don't fund them. But you can't really, it seems to me like, can you have decentralization halfway? Do you know what I mean? I think there's probably an argument there that we just have to say, no, we're not going to fund it, or no, we're not going to take money, and be grown up about it. So is there a conflict there? Do you see like two competing values? I guess somebody else could say decentralization should be governance as well. And if the or the Gitcoin community, who I imagine overwhelmingly don't want this, say, hey, we're raising our decentralization voices here and saying Shell can bugger off. That strikes me as pretty decent decentralization, right? So it's not all decentralization of markets; it's maybe decentralization of what the people in the community want as well, and that should be a good value as well, right? So where do you see this? Like, which side do you fall on? Do you see those as competing? And yeah, well, what's your thoughts there?
Well, kind of as I see it, I think there's like different layers to the problem, as you pointed out. There's kind of the governance and what the community wants, and then there's like the open,
Mm,
free financial aspects, the market aspect. Um, I think that what you can do, obviously, as is being done right now, is experimentation on different kinds of governance and different weightings of votes and things like that. You hear about like quadratic funding, for example, and that's trying to, sort of balance out the inequality in the way that governance is done. And so maybe again, it's back to sort of, there's like, you can sort of play both sides, right? You can have this free and open permissionless system, but you can also, with smart contracts in the way that you um, kind of govern your DAO and kind of how you encode or codify your DAO, you can have these mechanisms like quadratic funding that, in some sense, like suppress or stave off the activities of the powerful and the people coming in trying to corrupt the system, if that makes sense. So you could still
right.
have the base layer as like anyone can contribute, but on the governance layer, can they take the reins because of their contribution? That's like the question, really, and that's where there's a lot of experimentation and
Mm.
technical things that people are talking about in the crypto sphere. So yeah, I think you could probably have both. You just have to improve upon the governance layer so that it can't be captured, or that it's much harder to be captured. And then you can still kind of keep this permissionlessness thing. You can still like have your principles or values, and uphold those to the as much as you can.
That's a good point. So if the governance was in place to make sure that sort of undue influence from big corporations or whatever it is, if that was in place, I guess that's one safety valve, if you like. The wider point here, maybe as well, is do you sort of open the door to the old system? Slowly but surely it'll take over. We've seen this in the VCs where they just slowly but surely they do offer a little bit of money, and then they do sort of, you know lo and behold, there's good intentions to get good governance, and then that falls to the wayside as the money rolls in. The other thing here is like, Gitcoin funds a lot of decentralized local protocol efforts at planetary regeneration. Sort of, it's, if anything, it's sort of key on local decentralized climate change efforts and all the rest of it. And so the idea that you'd bring in Shell, who, you know, like, I think undoubtedly the evidence speaks that they've just destroyed the planet, in terms of, climate change and all the rest of it, so I don't know how they even manage that reputational side of it, or how that, I mean, if we're just, why not just bring in arms dealers after that then, sort of over there you're known to like fund local sort of efforts at, sort of, I don't know, like peace efforts in some region of the world, and then you allow like arms dealers to fund your protocol, and I don't know. It seems like a weird fit. I don't know. People may have different views, but these are the big questions that cryptos haven't answered now. So yeah, do you have any other thoughts on this, or like, yeah, how do you think it's gonna go? Do you worry about, open the door to one and they all roll in, or do you think it is manageable? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a hard this question kind of resonates. Or it's kind of like a fractal thing. So we're talking about Gitcoin and Shell, but then to me anyway, it kind of like parallels these conversations about on like the national level, where it's like, for example, right? Let's say we don't like, you mentioned arms deals. Let's say we don't like what the Chinese government is doing. Does that mean we stop all trade with the Chinese government? Because that not in some way hurt the Chinese people? Because we're not giving them the goods that they
Mm,
need, and so there's this, all the way up the stack. There's kind of this argument of, yeah, like
right.
we in
Okay.
some level
Mm,
we have to have some like diplomacy. We do, I guess, have to interact with the outside world and or the traditional system. It's just how we do that. We have to be really careful about how we do that. And in some ways, I would think the people in this space are especially conscious of it. Right, that's the one thing that we maybe have uh, on our
mm,
side, because
mm.
we've come into this space, and most people have, with a kind of screw you the establishment ethos, even if it's just a sprinkling of it, right? Even if you're sort of not quite into it, but you like, you're buying Bitcoin, right? On some level, the back of your mind that this is like a middle finger to governments, or central banks, etc. Like, everyone knows the basic kind of culture of Bitcoin, even if you're on the sidelines. And so you've got some Bitcoin, and so at some level, you're contributing to the effort to yeah, make a digital currency that, or store of value now, as people are calling it, that isn't controlled by the state or the central banks. So yeah, I think yeah, it is about compromise, but I think what we have on our side, like I said, is that this industry, the ethos, is kind of against, its anti-capture. That's kind of like the whole point in it, to begin with, like not getting captured by the middlemen, not having your funds controlled by other people, etc., etc. And so yeah, I guess I'm always hopeful. I think that's, even just pragmatically, like, it's
Yeah.
good to be like somewhat optimistic, not naive. But yeah, we've got smart people here. It's a shame to see that it's happened. I don't know all the details of the story, but yeah, so it's something we're going to have to wrestle with this particular story, and for years, and it's a battle that never ends.
Some good points there. I got some really interesting, challenging points that, yeah, you'd be hard placed to say that they've easy answers. So anyone who's listening is probably like us, just trying to figure this out. Because you raised some good points there about how do you deal in the real world, and still have some, the optimism that you're right, that we do have folks in here who are against capture. And then there's the cynics out there who are seeing this and saying, yeah, well, crypto 10 years ago was very different from the people left in crypto now. Those anti-establishment numbers are dwindled, from back in the day. And why is that? It's because, despite the ethos of anti-capture, it's captured. So yeah, where are we going to be in 5, 10 more years? You know what I mean? And there's definitely sort of a lot of hope certain amount of hope that you can place in people to hold back the tide of capture and corruption and establishment, economic and political power, and all that centralization and stuff. But if you don't have the systems in place, the non-human systems to kind of hold it back, also, if they're not in place yet, the barriers aren't there, then they can get easily knocked down. And that would be my worry as well. That maybe we just don't have them up yet, because human beings are we are weak to sort of greed and all the rest of it as well. So let's see, let's keep hopeful, let's keep building. These things tend to go in cycles over time as well, and there's push and pull. And but I think a lot of people will, not knowing the ins and outs of the story as well, as you say, people will be seeing that, and I think they'll go, oh god, not Bitcoin. That's the next sort of the barrier, the bastion of sort of public goods that's being knocked down. Like, what next? You know what I mean? A lot of people may lose hope. But yeah, okay, we're almost getting to the time of the end of the episode. Just a short one this week, as I say, folks. But Eves, let's throw it to you. Do you have any topic, story, interesting point that you've seen in the crypto world this week? Anything that you want to raise and talk about that's of interest to you? Maybe not, maybe so. Yeah, if there's anything, why don't we just chat about that for the last few minutes? Or if there's not, that's fine too. Is there anything else that's pickled your brain in the crypto world this week that you just went, let's chat about that? Is there anything like that?
I mean, I could just riff off. I had a thought about the shell story, and sort of the broader questions about it. I mean,
Yeah,
I
go
kind of
ahead.
thought of, let's say that Shell. Let's say we need to help, 1,000 people, and it costs X amount of money, and Shell are the only ones that can contribute that, right? Shell bring in $1 billion. We ain't going to get that from anywhere else. These people are starving. We need to feed them. We need Shell's money. What do we do? Do we stick to our guns, and do we put the middle finger up to Shell and say we don't need your money and let the people starve? And I think in just in an ideal world, like the sort of ideal mindset, this is wishful thinking, but it'd be really nice to see, is um, you kind of put the middle finger up to Shell and you say, you know what, we don't need your money, but we're also not going to let these people starve. What we're going to do, this is only going to accelerate our efforts. Like, you think we need your money, Shell? We're going to do this collectively and show you how powerful we are as a community. That's I would think is the kind of mindset. Like, you don't even have to let the people starve. You can say, you know what, we're going to use this as an opportunity to be better and to compete on the level of Shell without succumbing to the corruption and all the craziness that comes with a company like Shell. So yeah, I think in some sense, we want to use these things to inspire us. If you
Mm,
can do that, you can kind of transmute it and say, you know what, we're gonna do better. These are the people that we're up against. But we don't need your money because we're smart here. We're bound by values that can't be shaken easily. So yeah, that's kind of what I think. I don't think it should be like pessimistic about it. I think maybe the idea is that we should be motivated to create better solutions.
to
But
be
yeah, we don't
better.
need Shell. Why do we need Shell? We've already, at one point the market cap was 2 to 2.5 trillion. Um, it's like that's we
Mm.
already had a lot of power. We already have a lot of influence and wealth without Shell coming into the ecosystem.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
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 yeah.
that's
And we was us that have carried crypto from the very beginning, when the establishment didn't believe a word about it. We all got there, folks, together on our own. We got crypto to this space. They've only recently bought into it, if you like. Whether they believe in it, who knows? But they've only bought into it in the last. We have some pride in carrying it this far. We could certainly carry it without them. We don't need them. And let me put this to you, Eves, and put it to the wider audience. Sort of almost like the apocalyptic question. And just as you were speaking, it brought me back to a point that you made to me in text last week, Eves, and it really hit me hard. It was a passionate case. Do you know what I mean? And so let me put it back to you, and let me put it back to the audience, because there's a lot of people out there in the crypto world who kind of will take your scenario. What if Shell's going to give a billion to us that's going to fund all these amazing protocols and help people in these different ways. There's a lot of people out there in the crypto world who would go, yeah, yeah, okay, we'll take that. It, what? Oh, you're just gonna let all those projects go and die? Get out of here! You know, a lot of people make that point. Like, let's just take the money and shut up. You know, it's about building projects. Like, we don't have money from somewhere else. Shut up and take the money. But let me put it to you this way, and this is coming from what Eve said to me passionately last week. You know, he was like, you know what? We have the world as it is, and he said the reason why I'm so passionate about crypto is because it's the first time in a long time, if ever, where I've thought this is genuinely tech that can offer a different, genuine, plausible, pragmatic way of building a different world. Haven't seen it before, but these are the tools that we can go, oh shit, we can actually build a different world here with this. And I will put it to you, Eves, just off the back of the points we're making, and the people out there as well. If you believe that, right, and a lot of us do, if we let this go and to be corrupted and captured, and we get past the point of being able to keep it, to come back from that, let's just say we lose it to that, folks, what's left? Can anyone think of any other technology or tools that might come along in the next 100 years that actually gives us ways to build decentralized democracy and governance? I can't see it. We've waited for this now for God knows how long. So I think, like, when we haven't had it, now we do, and we all can't think of what the next thing is. Like, let's not give it up that easy. We should be the barriers, the ramparts. Everyone should be going, holy shit, this may be it. If we give this up, if we lose this to the matrix, to the system, whatever you want to say, what's left? This is like, this is, if you believe this tech, like, my point is, if you believe this tech is the last bastion of building actual decentralized democracy and economy and whatever else, don't give it up that easy, because you ain't getting it back. Once they take over, it's gone. It ain't coming back. So I think, like, the arguments of, oh, just let them in a little piece, let them in a little piece, oh, we'll be able to, it's like, it gets very sort of, oh God, once they're in, that's it, they'll take it over. It's no, we're not getting it back. So, there's a part of me that says, all right, we need to build out of use the current system to build a new. There's a part of me that does get that, but it's like, you can't let them in to certain bits. Do you know what I mean? You can't let them get the claws in. Use them. Make sure we have control over them. Use their money. We have control over. But once you let them in, it's over. Do you know what I mean? And yet there ain't fuck all else coming after this, folks. Or what else is there? So what do you think about that, man? Like, well, what's next after this? If we let this go, like, that's it, right?
I mean, I think you were saying it came off one of the back of the points I made, but I think
Yeah,
you probably said
yeah.
it better than I did. Not
Well, you put it better than I did, because you really moved me when you said it, because you were like, you brought your, this is the legacy I want to build for my kids, and this is what I really believe in, and and I hadn't, that had been lost on me for a little, maybe too many months, and I was like, Jesus, brought back home to earth. So you put it better, I think. But
Yeah,
yeah,
well, that
go
right.
ahead.
That's yeah, that's the struggle of the again. It's the fight, like that. Like you said, I went through a similar phase myself, right? And it kind of like someone said something and it hit me, and I was like, holy shit, I've been slipping for a little bit. You know what I mean? I've been sleeping for a little bit, right? Just going along. Oh yeah, cool, new protocol. Yeah, oh yeah, the price going up and
Yeah,
down,
yeah.
and yeah. But I think you said it really well. And I think when you look at it from that perspective, um, yeah, it's not just a thing. Oh, maybe we let him in. Maybe give him a little bit. It's actually from the perspective of this being like one of the best opportunities that we might have, and it hasn't happened for since potentially forever. This is maybe the first opportunity that we have to really do something. Um, it's extremely serious from that perspective. It's kind of like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
the ultimate
It's yeah.
question. Like this is. And even when you think about it, like I guess the optics of it, right? It's the ultimate in something, not to be too conspiratorial. Not that I'm opposed to this, but you know, you could say that Shell getting involved with Gitcoin is like the ultimate fuck you to the public goods crypto sector, right? It's like if
Right.
we can get
Mm.
Shell, whoever's saying this, if we can get Shell to put, like, that's the ultimate like brand hit piece, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Essentially for Gitcoin, and for the whole like public goods thing, because Gitcoin are at the top of the public goods thing, and Shell are at the top of their, destroying the planet thing. So you combine those, it's like a total shit show. It's the ultimate,
Yeah.
it's the silver
Yeah.
bullet, basically, if you want to look at it, like, to use that phrase. And so yeah, I think it's very, you're right, if you're in that context of this being like a real opportunity for humanity, um to to grow and like accelerate and kind of revive like politics and democratic ways of organizing and governance, all this kind of stuff. It's pretty serious. We shouldn't take these things lightly at all. Like, yeah, that's a very good point. We have to just give ourselves a stern reminder that this is pretty serious. This is maybe one of the most serious issues of our time. And so, yeah, we probably shouldn't let these people creep in. It's yeah,
Uh,
these are discussions that have to be had.
and they have been lost, and we all do sleep from time to time, and it's maybe moments like this that waken everyone up. The one thing, though, I have to say, I was just thinking of it when you were speaking there. The one thing that kind of makes me think, like, is there even if they, if they creep into let's just say they creep into Gitcoin, if they creep into overall crypto, and there's no way back from that, the claws are deep into the crypto system. There's no way back. If we let them really claw at what it is and get in, then I think there's no way back. But for individual protocols, little thing about crypto that gives me hope is if they were to creep into Gitcoin and it was against the will of the community, or just a part of the community was like, yeah, nah, we're not having any of this. There is one thing about cryptography and all the rest of it, that is kind of a savior here in a way. And for folks listening who might not know this, people who are listening in the crypto space, they will know this, but you can fork it, right? That's the thing. And fork means you can, it's code. So you can go, you know what, Gitcoin are over there doing that thing. We're going to slightly fork the code and create Gitcoin 2.0. And a portion of that community can go over there and go, you know what? Gitcoin 2.0, motherfuckers, and Shell's not getting involved with this one. And so another part of the community can be renewed, revived, blah, 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 and go over there and do its stuff. And in a way, then that is like the safety valve of the system or of a protocol in a way. Don't know if you could do it for the whole system. Don't think so. Once they maybe get their claws into key parts of it, gone. But for individual protocols, you can always go, we're over here, we'll create something new and come over here and fund this now. We're not going to have no shell. So is that's a bit of a safety valve? Would you agree, Eves? Or do you think that I've missed something there?
I mean, well, I was sort of a separate thought. I mean, this is just to link it back to what we started talking about. I
Mm,
think there are, with the things we're talking about with the Alliance or PodsDAO, aka the Alliance of podcasters.
yeah.
I mean, this is really this is kind of what it's about, right? We have a collective voice. We have a chance to fight back, and the message that we just talked about earlier, that the things we need to take seriously, we can help influence that in some way. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
just
Definitely.
looking at Shell's numbers right now, they have on Twitter 572,000 followers, so like just over 500,000. Facebook
Right.
page, they have 9 million, are quite a lot more popular on Facebook than they are Twitter. But the point being, they have altogether about 10 million followers across social media, that just those two sites. But collectively, in the distant future, hopefully the idea is that we have some of the biggest crypto podcasters in, we have enough people in that it makes up those numbers,
Yes.
and our voice is louder than Shell. So we can say, fuck you, Shell. We can say, hey guys, this is going down. What can be done about it? And maybe we can spread messages together, and really change things. So I believe
Absolutely.
that's all possible.
And that's the wider power of this as well. This is not just just to help sort of grow podcasters for the sake of it. Which is obviously a good thing as well. If you want everyone to get a livelihood and live their creative value and all that, and not be stuck in a 9 to 5. That's core to the mission. But also, as Eve's just rightly put there, like the wider vision is with a collective network effect voice of maybe 50, 100 podcasters in a year or whatever, and a collective voice, collective network effects is it bounds across the internet, and maybe a clip like the one we just did on Shell can reach 20 million followers. Who knows? With now social media these days, something can go viral, and something hard hitting maybe like that, where everyone goes, oh, you know what? God, they're right. You know what? They're goddamn right. We probably should not let Shell in Gitcoin, or God, let's have a bloody rethink about this. That is right, Eves. We can do that. Like, do you know what I mean? And that's what we're building towards, because that's really like what we all kind of believe in, right? And if we can build something like that and be proud of in a year or 2 years, um, do you know what I mean? You don't want to get carried away. You don't want to get carried away. But if there's ever a point in time where media is a disaster and the media landscape is just there to be absolutely revolutionized, podcast is the way to do it. And a collective network of podcasts. It's just and when the crypto world seems to be losing its way a bit, it's not like people are gonna be listening, going, "Listen to this guy, good God, he thinks he's God." No, well, let's be realistic. But I'm saying, like, if we have a collective voice and network effects here, and we're all shouting from the roughly the same hymn sheet on some of these key points, we can at least put the idea back in people's heads and question things again, and start to change the debate again, because I think it's just drifted too long in one direction. We need to kind of get back to what we all truly believe, and there's no reason to think that we can. So let's build towards that, and why not? That's all what we want, isn't it, Eve? So we should be shooting for the stars in that regard.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think probably not a bad note to end it on. Quite a sort of empowering, uplifting, inspiring, motivating kind of little segment there at the end. I think everyone knows what they need
Well,
to
look,
do now.
they do. And one last thing, shout out to Eve's lunar punk community, because we're gonna need you guys, the CIA, if we're saying what we want to do in 2 years to get these shells and all the rest of it out of the equation. The CIA are gonna come after us, so we need some lunar punk protocols to protect us all. Like 1,000 podcasters around the world all shouting from their little bedrooms and basements all around the world, and collectively 100 million views on this, that, or the other, all of us working together. The CIA can't come after us all, and they certainly can't if they can't find us. So, shout out to the lunar punk world. It's so important to protecting us all. Let's end it there. Really interesting chat. I'm glad we brought that topic in, because that's just so important, and I think we got to the sort of deeper issues there. Folks, thanks for listening. We'll be back again in a few weeks for, no doubt, an update on PodsDAO. We'll hopefully maybe have a Twitter up, some social media. We'll see. We're trying to do it decentralized. So, me and Eves we had the idea now, but again, we're trying to make this decentralized. We're going to take it slow. We want to involve everyone in doing things, but stay tuned. You'll see us still take some shape over the coming weeks, and interact with us, engage with us, and support us. And if you're a podcaster, get in touch. If you've some of the things that you've heard us mention on the show now, you like, get in touch with us. Eves, do you want to drop your Twitter handle, so people know they can reach out to you at least? You can reach out to me on Blockchain Solidarities account, or Eve's, what yours is. Go ahead. What's your Twitter handle?
It's just at Eve Edwards, so YVES Edwards, EDWARDS.
All lowercase, right?
All lowercase, yeah.
All lowercase. So reach out to Eves, or myself, and yeah, let's build this together. And so yeah, let's end it there. We'll be back in a few weeks. Thanks for listening, folks. And Eves, yeah, it was a pleasure as always. Great chat, and yeah, glad to have you a partner, big partners in building this, and you coming on the pod again. It's always a really interesting discussion, folks. Check out his podcast, Fiat Lux. When's the next episode of that coming out, Eves?
Oh, good question. Probably, I would imagine about 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks, 2 weeks. Okay, so stay tuned for that, folks. You can get it on all the, Spotify. It's on YouTube as well, isn't it?
YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, and I'm uploading clips to YouTube, Rumble, and Instagram. So quite a few different places. Yeah, hopefully on more platforms, more decentralized platforms. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Fiat Lux.
There you go. Well, there's some options, even Rumble in there if you're on there. There's all the different places where you may be. You'll be able to find it. So thanks, Steve, for that. And yeah, we'll check you on the next one, folks. Have a lovely day, and speak soon. Cheers, guys.
Peace.